Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. It's time to go over a community update that has come out for Gaijin. This is kind of a sneak peek into the next major update and also a bunch of other stuff that they're working on. And I thought what we would do is do a series of videos kind of talking about it because they go into some pretty big topics here. So you have, of course, the recent nations announcement. We're going to go through that, a preview of the next major update that we're going to have a look at. They talk about the next event and also some new mechanics that they're going to bring in. So I thought we'll probably split this into like 2 or 3 videos just so it's easier for you to kind of like see what you want to see instead of a grandiose, massive one, which is about. So don't worry if we don't cover everything in this specific video, we'll be covering it in the next one. So it'll be out today as we go along. So it's really cool that they do these community updates. I've actually really enjoyed them over the last period of time. They have put now this like massive disclaimer in them about like how, oh, well, what we talk about here might not actually happen. But yeah, they put that on everything now. So it's just kind of how it is. But I think the general fact that they are being a lot more open about decisions and also listening to community feedback is fantastic to see too. So let's go through the first part in this video. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe and also like the video because, of course, it helps it out. So let's get started. Obviously, in the Q&A that BVD did, or the kind of like discussion about all of the Chinese stuff more recently, there was quite a lot of drama around it. Basically, you had the Singaporean stuff. There was a lot of the Chinese vocal community that was not happy with it, and a lot of the vocal Singaporean community did not seem happy about it either. So basically, what you have is just a bit of a mess, I think is the best way of putting it. And this means that they've obviously had to change tact. So they've gone through and obviously thanked people for their passion and also involvement in the community. Always got to do that. Got to, pat the people on the back. As we talked about before, I think there's a little bit of a worrying trend here. Like, I prefer a Gaijin which kind of sticks to their guns instead of like bending knees all the time. And I feel like more recently they've been trying to kind of adhere to the bend the knee strategy, which works great until you run into kind of an immovable object, meaning that if you have to make a decision and it has to be done because there's no other way of doing it, you're going to piss people off by doing it. And then what do? Because you bent the knee for everything else. And if you don't bend the knee for that thing, you're going to get a lot of people pissed off and wonder why you hate them, which is something we've seen a lot in the previous weeks. But yeah, they basically just go, thank you for being part of the community, yada, da, da, da. Now, let's talk about the Singaporean vehicles. Obviously, their idea was to put it into the Chinese tech tree. This would have added a lot of variety because, to be honest, it would have added a lot of Western technology to the Chinese tech tree. And that would mean that it would be more interesting for Chinese players. One of the things that they've been trying to do is, as we said, make every tech tree not the same, but basically have the same experiences. So therefore, even if you only play one tech tree, which is the majority of people, by the way, you would get access to all of the different types of technology. But because of nation divides, because of nationalism, because of pride, a lot of people don't like that because they just want their own stuff. Now, Singapore is in an interesting place because obviously it cannot get its own tech tree. It just does not have enough vehicles. It would not work. So what they've decided to do is instead of adding it to the Chinese tech tree, which they have talked about doing, they are going to change it. So instead of that, what they're going to do is they're going to spread the Singaporean vehicles across a number of tech trees, most likely with their vehicles going to whatever tech tree is most applicable and relevant on a case-by-case basis. So any nation which influenced a vehicle or kind of that vehicle is from, they are going to add to whatever nation. So very similar to kind of, I suppose, Canada. Canada is kind of similar to that, apart from obviously the CF-188. But you have like the Rams, for example, which are in the American and also the British tech tree. You have the C2A1 and also the Leopard 2A4 MCAN, which are in the German tech trees. You also have it kind of with the Polish vehicles too. You have the Lim 5P, which is in the Russian tech tree, and then you have the Trizniek and also the Garland, which is in the British tech tree. So it looks like they're kind of doing that with Singapore, where they're just going to dot them around the place. Now, this obviously makes people happy that didn't want to see all of the vehicles in that specific tree, but it means if you are Singaporean, now you have to play several tech trees in order to get access to all of the vehicles, and at the same time, you cannot form lineups around them, and you cannot have that kind of national side of it. And if that's fine, if that's okay for those people, then there you go. But once again, it's just another one of those things where because of, backlash, they've had to change tact and change where things are. This will improve balance in those tech trees where they add them, but at the same time, it means that those sets of vehicles have absolutely no national identity kind of attached to them, and it isn't convenient for the people who actually want to play them. So it's convenient for, let's say, the Chinese players. It's convenient for, whichever nation didn't want these vehicles. But if you are a person who really wanted to play these in a specific place, looks like you're kind of screwed, aren't you? So you can't really do anything with it. I personally don't mind this option. As I've said before, I think what we should do when it comes to all of these tech trees is we should try and bring parity to them. We should bring them up to a standard all at the same time. So if this is a better way of doing that, then that's completely fine with me. I've never been on the side of kind of like the nationalism side of things, as I've talked about it before, but I do understand it when people talk about it. It's very important to some people to have that type of identity in the game, and obviously to others not. So the next point was about the Israeli tech tree. Now, it was brought up many times that Singapore itself actually has quite a lot of ties to Israel. In terms of technology, in terms of military cooperation, and also just in terms of generally getting along. And therefore, it would be quite a good fit between the two nations. Now, the problem that you have is the fact that Israel as a tech tree is very anemic. It needs help. So therefore, if Singapore had gone to China, it wouldn't have made a lot of sense. But it seems like the Gaijin does not want to put Singapore in the Israeli tech tree. Instead, they're going to expand Israel with Cyprus, which is an interesting one, and then also Greece, which is less interesting. This right? Okay, so this right here is going to show you the difference between a major nation and a minor nation, right? So with China, and with the player base that it has, and with the kind of loudness that it has in terms of what people want in the game geopolitically and also from real life, you saw a big backlash when it came to the VT4 stuff and also when it comes to the Singaporean stuff. And now, with the Israeli stuff, they have now said they're going to add Greece and also Cyprus into Israel. Now, if you don't know about the history of Cyprus, and if you don't know about the history of Greece, this would probably sound completely fine. But if you do, you'd realize there are a few issues with doing something like that, right? Especially when it comes to Cyprus and the area where it is. But as I said, the community around the Israeli tech tree and also around Greece and also around Cyprus is a lot smaller than the Chinese country. So I will be amazed if there is as much backlash compared to this. There will also not be community figures who control certain discords pushing these narratives either, because they're not from Greece and they're not from Cyprus and they don't know the history. But yeah, this is going to be a tell of showing the difference between the major nation kind of talking points and the minor nation talking points, and how certain nations will literally just get away with stuff because they can just bring a firewall of people, whereas with others you can't. And that's the issue. That's always been the issue with War Thunder. It's why, when it comes to things being added to the game, it has always felt like the major nations have always got more, because they have. They have more players, they have more variety, they have more vehicles, whether it's because of historical stuff or whether because it's just the mostly played, it is catering to the player base. And when it comes to other areas, kind of been left by the wayside, and this is another part of it. They have said that certain Singaporean vehicles will be added to Israel, so probably the ones which are heavily of Israeli descent. By the way, when it comes to Greece and Cyprus, Greece has a metric ton of vehicles. Greece is one of the very interesting places that just imports everything that they can. They have a ton of different variants of different stuff. One of the funniest things, at least for me, when it comes to Greece, is for some reason in War Thunder, when it comes to the camo boxes, there has always been just this kind of massive amount of Greek camouflages, whether it's, somebody's mate who keeps like getting all these camos on, but it also shows how much variety of vehicles the Greeks have. They have many different vehicles across the board. If you actually have a look, even just basically on Wikipedia about Greek vehicles, you'll see that there is a massive list of stuff that they bought from other nations, mainly because of being worried about Turkey. And then you also have Cyprus. Cyprus definitely has less, but once again, it will be a nice filler nation for Israel. And both of these, as I said, they're not bad picks if you're looking for variety, but from a historical point of view, it's a little bit dodgy. Also, at the same time, they have talked about the Japanese tech tree and the Indonesian vehicles once again. Seems like nobody really has an issue with this, so they're just reaffirming it, that's what they're doing. They obviously added the Indonesian helicopter more recently, and they also plan to introduce some aircraft from Malaysia to strengthen the aviation tree more. So that's kind of cool. I don't know the relationship between the Malaysians and the Japanese, and also the Thais, and of course now the Indonesians, because now we have to think of all of these different countries together and how they work politically, and because it's so fun doing that in a fucking video game. But yeah, there you go. So it looks like Japan's going to get more reinforcements, and that's fantastic. One of the cool things that they said at the end of 2024 was what they're going to do is they're going to add in more subnations for nations to help them out, and outlaying their plans and talking about them, even if it has caused quite a bit of controversy in certain communities, has been very, very positive to see. So I'm very glad that that's kind of turned around. But China, they've also talked about other vehicles they're going to add in. They're working on a new SAM system, which shouldn't be a surprise. The AA that they added to the top tier of China is cool, but it is definitely not on the same level as the multi-vehicle SAM systems. So the fact they're doing that is really nice. Also, they're working on a new top tier jet aircraft. Not a surprise once again. That is, something that a lot of people have been looking forward to. And also, they're going to be adding more Pakistani vehicles, which once again should not be a surprise. When it comes to Pakistan, they obviously already added the Al-Khalid and also the JF-17. And usually what Gaijin do is they add a few premiums first, and then maybe squadron vehicles, and then they add in more of that nation's vehicles, that tech tree. They kind of use it as a tester, and then bang, fire a bunch of stuff in. So yeah, kind of fun for China. Also, a popular US-made main battle tank to bolster the ranks. Now, what's really funny about this part, so this will probably be the M1A2T, which is the Taiwanese M1A2. People will be completely fine with this, but not okay with a Leopard 2. Basically because of the fact that Taiwan has access to it, even though it will literally do exactly the same thing as the Leopard 2 will in improving variety in gameplay, because it does not have the Singaporean tag on it, and instead has the Taiwan tag on it. It will be seen as fine. And that's why nationalism is very silly when it comes to video game. Because basically it's literally just developers having to try and skirt around made up rules to try and please people based on where they were born. And it's just, wow, it is impossible to go through. The other things they're also doing, oh, please don't do this. Personal plea, number 522nd of tech. Please do not put 9 M48s in this tech tree. I am begging you. I know South Korea used like every variant of the goddamn M48, but please don't do it. Please. Also, once again, the idea of putting in a united Korean research tree. Two nations that are actively aggressive towards each other in the way that they are. But once again, do not have a big enough player base to kick up a stink, right? It's amazing, the double standards that can happen. But maybe there will be enough of a stink with this one. Who knows? There is quite a lot of South Koreans who play. Obviously not a lot of North Koreans, for very obvious reasons. This is kind of cool. I would have preferred if they'd made them subnations of other tech trees, just because of the simple fact that we have 10 tech trees in the game, and the vast majority of people only play maybe 1 or 2. And sorry, we have 10 nations in the game. We have like 30 or 40 tech trees. And yeah, adding more is great for a person like me because, you know, it basically means new content. But for other people, they're kind of screwed, right? Because it's just more content they'll never get to play because it's just way too much. The interesting thing about this, though, is there are some kind of fun vehicles from North Korea. There are some from South Korea. We've already seen them testing the waters with the VDAR and also others. And maybe this will mean that more Polish vehicles will come along. So it's cool to see that they've confirmed that Korea is coming. I just personally do not want this huge standalone tech tree because once again, it's just going to be ignored by the vast majority of players. What'll be interesting also is to see if Israel will actually finally get its rank 1, 2, and 3 with the addition of Greece and Cyprus. I think they probably will, even though it'll be very samey vehicles across the board, and it'll be nice for the tech tree because people will actually be able to get into it. And overall, like, most of this is pretty cool and nice to see that they're bringing in a ton of different nations into the game. And that means more technologies. And it also means there's going to be a lot of similar vehicles around the place. And they're going to have to figure out how to make it interesting for people. How many times can you play an M48? How many times can you play an M60? How many times can you play a T-Series vehicle? That is the key point. How many times can a person do that before they go insane? I went insane about 3 years ago. My brain broken. Okay? But for other people, we'll have to see, right? And that's the key part. In the next video, we'll have a look at a preview of the next major update. But it's just really cool to see this. Let me know your thoughts, especially with the nations being added. Let me know what you think in terms of it. And thank you for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day. And I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank GMG Smiley, CD Beans, Chieftain Mike, EMN3 Galaxy, Tulio Pontecorvo, Brendan Quinn, Carrion Crow, Gus Irenicus, Pyman, Wartinder, Teddy, Daniel Stanton, Martinez, B. Young, Ozzy Panzer, Alan Hacker, Liam Shear, Opium Prime, Lafouche, Sem, Aslan, Uncle Bean, and Derek R. for supporting the channel.